Richard Burwell, talking about an evolution, Richard Burwell.
Good afternoon, everyone. When I saw and first held an iPhone for the first time, I knew I was holding something pretty special. Maybe not the wheel, maybe not fire, maybe not an ape using a stone as a tool special, but pretty special. I also knew that I had to have one. You could definitely say that it sparked my interest. Recently, I celebrated my 14th service anniversary with Fleur, and that got me thinking about my very first iPhone. I bought it to celebrate getting hired by Fleur, and it arrived just a couple of days before I was due to start, and then I proceeded to spend most of the next few days and honestly most of my new hire orientation playing around with it when I was supposed to be paying attention to benefits, which is why I never make any money here. So I don't think my investments do terribly well because I was too busy playing with my iPhone. Back in then, it was 2008, iPhones weren't generally available in Canada, so you had to buy one on the gray market from the US and then use some fairly suspect software to jailbreak it so that you could use a Canadian SIM card in there. So once you'd got through all that and run the risk that the thing just died on you and you'd spent a few $100s on it, then you got to find out what it could really do for you. Unfortunately, back then, unless you were a BlackBerry user, mobile data wasn't really a thing. So most of the functionality only came on Wi-Fi. Similarly, back then, Wi-Fi wasn't as widely available as it is now. So it was pretty limited, to be honest, but it was still cool. But that was the life of an early adopter. But what is really an early adopter? There are many ways to approach new ideas, new products, or lifestyles. How you do will tell you a great deal about you and your personality traits. Over years of research, Everett M. Rogers, a communications scholar and sociologist, identified some fascinating personality traits that help organize how people will accept an innovation. In his book, Diffusion of Innovations, Rogers describes 5 types of adopters for products and provides insight into each of those types. Based on Rogers' research, the Interaction Design Foundation provides the following definitions. First up are the innovators. Innovators represent 2.5% of the product market and are the first customers to try a new product. They are, by nature, risk takers and are excited by the possibilities of new ideas and new ways of doing things. Innovators will often have some connection to the scientific discipline in which a new product is generated from and will tend to socialize with other innovators in their chosen product categories. Innovators are comfortable with the risks that they take. They are aware that products that they adopt may not deliver the benefits that are promised or will fail to win mass market appeal. Think of the Betamax. Next up are the early adopters, representing 13.5% of the market. Early adopters are the second phase of product purchasers. These tend to be influential people within any market space, and often they will have a degree of thought leadership for other potential adopters. They may be very active in social media and often create reviews and other materials around new products that they strongly like or dislike. Early adopters tend not to take as many risks as innovators and make more reasoned decisions as to whether to become involved in a particular product and will try to obtain more information than an innovator in this decision-making process. As a product begins to have mass market appeal, the next class of adopter to arrive is the early majority. This class of adopter, representing 34% of the market, is reasonably risk-averse and wants to be sure that their resources are spent wisely on products. They will often be in contact with thought leaders and use the opinions of these thought leaders when making their adoption decisions. Next up, the 34% of the market represented by the late majority is rather more skeptical about product adoption than the first 3 classes of adopters. They tend to put their resources towards tried and tested solutions and are generally risk-averse. Lastly, we have the laggards, representing 16% of the market. Laggards are the last to arrive at the adoption party, and their arrival is typically a sign that a product is entering decline. Think Facebook. Laggards value traditional methods of doing things and highly averse to change and to risk. Now, one thing I will say about all 5 of these classes of adopters that it's important to remember that, as with all generalizations, not all members of all classes of adopter will conform to the general patterns of that class. There will be high-income, well-educated, risk-taking laggards, as well as low-income, poorly educated early adopters. There are also plenty of older people familiar with and inspired by technology. I remember it was probably my third iPhone and going along with a 65-year-old construction manager who was super excited that the iPhone 4 was coming out. So I had to go along with him and help him and his buddy, who was probably also in his 60s, go out and buy these things. And we were actually in Italy at the time. So yeah, there's people that don't tend to conform to these types, and that's what makes technology and innovation all the more exciting. As I mentioned, at the time of my first iPhone purchase, and even when I started researching this subject, I considered myself an early adopter. But having absorbed the research, I've started to question that. Or maybe as Rogers observes, as I get older, my place on the innovation adoption curve is changing. How about you? Are you an innovator? Are you a laggard? Probably more likely somewhere in the middle. What's in your pocket? How long have you had it? Do you change products like you change your mind? Whatever spark lights your fire, your style is uniquely you, and that's okay. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.